What's up everyone, it's Labore Songre here today, and I have a special type of video today. I am going to be doing a guide video to a deck that I hit Legend with this month actually. This month I hit Legend with Big Recruit Warrior, going 38 wins, 23 losses from Diamond 5 to Legend. An overall blast with the new tools introduced. And I'm making the guide because it's a lot of fun and very interesting deck that I think you can make it to Legend with now. So after a lot of testing, this is the final version I came out with. Now a little bit about Recruit, just the mechanic itself. If you're newer to Hearthstone, it came out back in Kobolds and Catacombs. And so the deck has existed ever since then when Gather Your Party came out. This 6 mana card here that enables you to recruit a minion from your deck. That, as well as Woe Cleaver, first enabled pulling out big minions early from your deck. And Warrior just aims to pull the big powerful minions in this kind of list that enable you to win the game real quick. So part of the goal of this deck, in order to survive long enough to cheat out early minions with Gather Your Party, early minions with Commencement, to start pulling out big threats to win the game, you have to survive. So a lot of the deck's game plan is to look for early cards that'll help you against any aggressive stuff. Just like minimize the damage you take as you go along. Like Bash, for example, was a card that I didn't have in an early build that I found was really helpful. Just gaining armor and killing threats. And Blood Razor as well is insanely good defensive cards. But basically what you try to do is survive until turn 5. Then turn 6, hopefully you have Gather Your Party. You only have 2 of, so you won't necessarily find them. But essentially, by the time you get to turn 7, you better have Commencement and just bombard your opponents with big minions ever since that turn right there. So that's the general goal of the deck, is just do your best to keep the cards that help you survive the best until you get to your constant big plays here. A little bit about the meta right now. I mean, things are still finalizing. It's still only been a couple of days into the new expansion. But some popular decks that I've gotten a lot of questions about and that are worth mentioning with this deck against those decks are, for example, Raza Priest. One of the most common decks right now. It's actually a really interesting matchup. I say it's about 50-50, but it's very, very interesting. My final Legend game, I would share it. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it was the most insane, stressful game I've had in a long time. I went through like 2 Psychic Screams, a Hysteria, 2 Zephyruses, just absolutely insane, and still got there somehow. But it's a very interesting matchup, in all honesty. A lot of the times they don't know to keep their ooze for Woe Cleaver, so that'll help you in your favor. Because you don't play big cards until later, and they might think you're Dead Man's Hand if all they see is a Razor, a Bash, Shield Block early cards. But usually the way the matchup goes is it takes 2 minions to force any kind of big AoE, and the main AoEs you have to deal with are Hysteria and Scream. So your main goal in the matchup is to look for Gather Your Party for sure. Like, to throw away everything against a priest that isn't Gather Your Party, and then Commencement's okay. You really want Gather Your Party. Commencement's okay. I don't know if you should keep it or not. Sometimes I do just to have a guaranteed recruit effect, but Gather Your Party is a lot more ideal. So always keep Forge of Souls, by the way, but I think the matchup is about 50-50. You can make it to where they have to react to what you do every turn. If you start on 6, it can make it really hard for them to clear and then play anything left that they have to play. So other than Raza Priest, which again, I won't say it's favored, it really depends, but it's a very interesting matchup. Another deck that's in the meta a lot right now is Mali Druid. Mali Druid, the strategy is a lot like Raza Priest. You understand that they're not an aggro deck, they're a combo deck. They are going to take their time, just draw their own cards, ramp, do stuff with Kael'thas. You know, it's really hard to interact with what they do. Mostly, like I said, go for Gather Your Party, go for Commencement. The deck is kind of simple in that regard. Try and stay alive the best you can, know what to look for in the matchups, what the usual deck per class is. So yeah, go for Gather Your Party, go for Commencement. One of the most interesting games I've had against a Mali Druid that helped me win. This is like a unique interaction that won't happen often, but sometimes it'll happen. Is that a Mali Druid one time, he popped off, he summoned 3 Malagoses, but he actually didn't have lethal on me. So he was really close, but there was no Blade Storm set up. There was no way to kill the Malagoses, right? But what happened was I played Bulwark, which is really good in the list, by the way, for helping you stay alive till your Gather the Party turn, or through your Gather the Party into Commencement. Whatever minions have stuck around from your early removal turns, this card's pretty good, actually. But what happened was I played Brawl, right? And a Malagos survived, and of course you're going to die to a Malagos. They're going to find whatever spell damage they couldn't play out that turn. But Lich King gave me Obliterate, right? The 2 costs, destroy a minion, however much health it has, you take damage for it. Well then, Bulwark just tanked that 12 damage that I would have taken, so I won the game because of Bulwark, using a durability instead of taking 12 for it. So Mali Druid, again, it's not really a favorable one. It's really, really hard to interact with what they do. Sometimes you can lock them out with a Bulwark early. If you play Bulwark like right before they go for the combo, they have to like take time, kind of punch you down a bit. A lot of the ways that deck hits you and would proc Bulwark is with spells they have to save to hard kill you with to do a lot of damage. And another really interesting interaction is Vargoth. Originally I tried the Prime in this list. The problem is you can recruit the Prime version if you didn't draw it by 4, like the original 4/4 version. But Vargoth has won me games by pulling it off Commencement, because you get an extra minion with Taunt and Divine Shield, which is really good, not to mention Vargoth is very good at sticking around if it has Taunt and Divine Shield. But I beat an Odd Rogue, I think it was. I beat an Odd Rogue by Commencement the Vargoth to get Taunt and to get Divine Shield, and he just couldn't get through the minion. He had a Vile Spine. He couldn't get through Vargoth and the minion, and it just enabled me to win a game. So I do think the Vargoth belongs. It's just something you can play and then play Blood Razor, or play Blood Razor then play this. It just sets up best for your Gather Your Party or your Commencement, your initial recruit turns. Another deck right now in the meta is Kingsbane Rogue. The deck does pretty well against Kingsbane. There are like 2 versions right now. There is the Ship's Cannon version. There is the just main weapon focus version primarily. Ship's Cannon, Blood Razor, absolutely insane. Warpath, you can go off early just to kill. The Buccaneer, just early stuff. And Blade Storm's pretty good as well. Basically, you shouldn't be taking much damage from their minions and only have to worry about the weapon. Equipping Bulwark of Azzinoth really locks them out if you've just already killed off most of their stuff. Can be an easy way to equip Bulwark on 5, either by like Forge of Souls and finding it, or just you've had it in hand and you finally cleared the minions and you can play it safely. Then leading in with Gather Your Party Commencement. Overall, Kingsbane's a really pretty favored matchup. Raza Priest is about 50-50 and Mali Druid is a tough one. So those are three of the meta decks right now. Still trying to get an overall picture of what is out there in total, but those 3 are pretty important matchups to know to understand how to play the deck. But like I said, it's really not hard. Learn what each class is likely to bring and try and prepare your best to defend yourself until your recruit turns. So a little bit about the deck, the types of card in the deck. Let's start with the minions, right? I identify there's a couple types of minions. Number 1 type of minion is a resilient minion. Sticky minions is what I call them. These minions are Rattlegore, Colossus of the Moon, and Scrapyard Colossus. These minions are insanely hard to kill. Like, that's the point of them being there. They don't accomplish much when they play. I mean, Scrapyard Colossus does protect you when he gets into play, but Rattlegore and Colossus of the Moon are just incredibly hard to kill threats. They put in their work over time by sticking around, almost guaranteed to smack your opponent in the face. So it takes a little bit for them to do their trick, but it's minions like these that are key to beat any control deck like Raza Priest. Like an early Rattlegore with Gather Your Party or Commencement is just absolutely insane. Usually my Raza Priest opponents don't understand what I'm playing. They don't look for Polymorph off of Kazakus. They would just tempo it on 4, go for a tempo on 5. Very much, this just pulling this minion alone in combination with one minion will force a scream, because Zephyrus can't really answer it, right? So that's the first type of minion, or sticky resilient or sticky minions is the cooler term. Next up is utility minions. Those minions are like Vargoth. Those minions are Lich King. Those minions are like Yasharaj. Now Yasharaj, obviously, super insane. You pull it off on Gather Your Party, chances are you're gonna win the game. Anything quick, if you've stayed alive, you have health, you gather your party, Yasharaj, boom, you're winning the game. They're very much one of the best recruits you can pull here. Vargoth, like I said, the utility, it's an extra minion off Gather Your Party. There's just extra stats. There's a chance you get extra stats when you recruit. Something to play on 4. It recruits further stats whenever it's played. It very much scares the opponent, but it doesn't serve to stick around for too long or serve to do anything initially that protects us or does a lot of damage. And finally, there's what I call the damage minions, the injury minions in the list. Those cards include Troublemaker, which is kind of utility, by the way, and Grommash Hellscream. Yeah, Grommash is insane. After you've pummeled your let's say you pull a sticky minion first, right? Like Rattlegore. After you've pummeled your opponent in the face with Rattlegore one time, recruit like another minion, or you've hit your opponent with Troublemaker, or just done a little bit of damage. Grommash and Troublemaker are just so good at like chasing down your opponent's health, as well as Woe Cleaver, chipping away and going face if you've dealt with most of your opponent's stuff. Just minions that slowly close out the game. So those are the 3 type of minions, and there is a little bit of variance. If you've already taken a lot of damage and you're practically dead by the time you gather your party in commencement, you obviously don't want a Grommash Hellscream, right? You don't want a damage minion if you haven't started recruiting, if you haven't started punching your minions down. You would want something like Rattlegore, or something like Scrapyard Colossus, you would want Yasharaj. So there is a little bit of variance in what you recruit when and when you really want it. But it's important to have the right balance of all of these types of minions in the list. So a little bit back to Mulligans here. We talked a little bit about class specific. Generally, things that I always keep in any matchup. If I see Forge of Souls, I always keep Forge of Souls. That's unconditional, always keep Forge of Souls. And Gather Your Party, I'm pretty sure unconditional, keep it. It's your earliest recruit card. It's your first chance to do something powerful, cheating out some minion for yourself. So always keep Forge of Souls, and always keep Gather Your Party. And there was a time whenever I ran double Forge of Souls. I'm still playing around with the list a little bit, but this defensive list is probably about the best I've done so far with it, with the bashes. So definitely play around, put another Forge of Souls, but always keep Gather Your Party and Forge of Souls in the list. And other than that, like I said, simple deck. Go for defensive stuff. You see a rogue, you're suspicious of like 1 health stuff, you have a Warpath, sure, keep Warpath, just don't take damage. You see a Blood Razor, you think, hey, I can kill a ship's cannon, I can kill a captain, maybe it's Odd Rogue, I can kill a lot of that stuff. Pretty easy, right? Blood Razor 2 against Mage. I do keep Blood Razor against Mage. Bash is pretty fine against Mage. Mostly the aggressive classes are the ones you're worried about the most, about hard milling for defensive cards. Other classes, like I said, Raza Priest, Druid, you can kind of chill a little bit and not worry so much about them trying to kill you, and just focus on gaining armor and recruiting at your own will. And that's basically it for the big Recruit Warrior guide. Like I said, I did pilot the list to Legend, 38 wins, 23 losses. It was an absolute blast. The deck is a lot of fun. Big minions, big fun, big wins. It was a big goal of mine for a long time to hit Legend with Recruit Warrior, and I finally, and I love the new cards. I finally got there with the new cards, trying them out. Absolutely fun stuff there. But if you guys liked the video, be sure to check out the written guide as well, which is where the video will be linked. I did a written guide as well as a video guide, so be sure and check that out. And thanks so much for just checking out the video, and I hope that you try the deck, test around some defensive cards, see what you like, and thanks so much.